Good morning, everyone. So first, I'd like to say thank you very much for joining the session. Okay, I hope the title is provocative. So you think you know what customers want from delivery, so think again. Okay, so I guess that answers the question which Peter asked me earlier, which was, if we were asked the question, do we see ourselves as a technology company or as a delivery company, I'd say delivery is core to what we do. Delivery is what we know and what we love. So we are a delivery company which is enabled by technology. Brief introduction, we've been around for 16 years. We have two sides of our business. We provide multi-carrier managed delivery services anywhere in the world, as well as returns. And that goes hand in hand with the technology that we have built and developed, which manages that whole journey, if you like, from the point of checkout, enabling customers to pick the broadest choice of delivery options that they'd like with duties and taxes, to then shipping, labeling and dispatch, tracking, tracing, bringing it all the way back. So that entire journey, if you like, from getting the parcel to the doorstep, from checkout to doorstep, and back again. So, as I said, delivery is core to what we do. It's what we know and what we love, which is why we were very proud to be the sponsors of this year's Final Mile conference stream, but also the sponsors of this year's Consumer Home Delivery Survey, which is a survey which the IMRG produce every year. It's a survey which goes out to over 2,000 UK households, asking them for information to understand what their attitudes and behaviors are towards delivery, and more importantly, how does that influence their purchase? Okay? It's in its 10th anniversary, so this report not only tells us what's happened in the past 10 years, but it also looks at what's been trending over that time as well. It's a detailed 66-page report which has just been issued, and I can see that we've actually got the author in the audience today. Andrew is here. So Andrew Starkey, if you're members of IMRG, you'll be familiar with this report. Andrew is the author of this report, and we worked with him. And he's actually going to be on one of the speaker panels at 2:40 later today, which looks at, I think it's managing delivery expectations, isn't it? So meeting delivery expectations. So IMRG have very kindly given me permission to share some of the insights from the report. My intention is not to go through 66 pages of detailed analysis. What I would like to do, however, is share with you at least what I think are the eight, I had to check the number then, 8 key takeaways from that report, and then also look at what do those takeaways mean in terms of how you could be thinking about your delivery proposition, evaluating it, but also what that might mean for your strategy. Okay? So before I get into the first key takeaway, I'd like to ask you guys one question. Okay? So if you don't mind, I'd like everybody to give us a show of hands. And the question is, who can tell us what they believe is the #1 reason why your customers are likely to abandon purchase at checkout? Hands. Not you, Andrew, that's cheating. Any ideas? We're all consumers ourselves, so ask yourselves, what are the main reasons why when you get to checkout, you have found yourself jumping off that website and abandoning your purchase at that point in time? Cost of delivery, very good. Anything else? Time, okay, very good. All right, so no surprises there. Cost of purchase is definitely the #1 reason why your customers are cost of delivery is the #1 reason why your customers are most likely to abandon purchase at the point of checkout. Because when they look at the cost of delivery, they're adding that to the cost of what they're buying. And if it tips it over a point at which they think it's too expensive, that is likely to get them to abandon purchase at that point in time. So cost of delivery is the number one thing, but very close behind that is similar to what you said, Peter, which is lack of convenient delivery options, okay? So that means when they've come to delivery, they're not finding an option there which is suitable for them. What's interesting, and it relates to the chat I had with the chap down there at Sainsbury's, is that fast delivery, not giving customers the option of a free delivery, ranks at number 3. What's new this year is that we see dissatisfaction with returns policy also moving up the ranks. So what that tells us, key takeaway number 1, is that customers are more likely to abandon purchase due to cost or lack of convenient delivery options, and not just because there's no free option. Okay? So that's key takeaway number 1. Number 2, a good delivery experience encourages repeat purchase. Okay? So if you're looking to use delivery or looking to understand what levers you've got in your toolkit to get customers to come back and buy again, to grow that customer lifetime value, then you should be thinking about delivery, because 62% of those 2,000 households, when asked, would they come back and buy again from the same retailer after a good experience, delivery experience, said yes, they would. So conversely, it stands to reason that if you give customers a bad delivery experience, they're not going to come back and buy from you again. Okay? So that's key takeaway number 2. Number 3, we have to mention click and collect, because it's so popular now as a mainstream delivery option. What's surprising is that attitudes towards click and collect are shifting. Whereas from at the beginning of when IMRG started tracking delivery options, it was very clear that respondents felt that click and collect should be free, right? Because the cost and the effort of going somewhere to collect a parcel was seen as cost enough. However, what we see this year is that your customers will consider paying for click and collect if it means that they're going to get a more convenient option, such as being able to specify a specific time slot that's convenient for them. They are willing to pay for it, but not very much. The research suggests that the tipping point for when a customer will pay for a premium service like a click and collect service is around £2. Okay? Number 4, keeping your customer informed about where their parcel is, how their delivery is progressing is really, really important to them. Okay? And there's a direct correlation between that and their level of satisfaction and what they would perceive as a failed delivery. Okay? So for a customer, failed delivery is not that it doesn't turn up or it disappears or it's been nicked off their doorstep. Failed delivery means that as a retailer, you have failed to meet their expectations in terms of when they wanted it or when they expected it to be delivered. So what does that mean? It means that if you're able to inform your customers and include pre-delivery notifications as part of that delivery experience, right? In particular, when something's going to go wrong, meaning you tell your customer when their delivery is going to be late. You tell your customer if your courier's just not been able to get that parcel through the door, or there wasn't anybody home to sign for it, and it's not going to be there. tell them, because customers are far more tolerant of problems in the delivery service if they know about it. So key takeaway number 4, consistent communication is key to managing expectations and reducing the perception of failed deliveries. Number 5. I think I've skipped a number. Have I skipped a number? Okay, number 5. I think it just validates what we all know. You know, what's been consistent year on year over the 10 years that this report has been tracking is that the UK is very much a country where the shopper prefers to have their parcel delivered home. So home delivery remains the most popular delivery location or destination by far. However, what's interesting, and we mentioned it earlier, returns is very much coming on the radar, okay? And when we look at how satisfaction levels with delivery have evolved over time compared with satisfaction levels with returns, we can see that there's been a consistent gap along the way. So the orange line is satisfaction levels with returns. The blue line is satisfaction levels with returns, yeah? And as you can see, there's a significant gap between the two, and that gap is not closing, right? So what it means is that key takeaway number 6, there is still room for improving the delivery proposition, okay? Because while 78% delivery satisfaction may seem good, the question is it really good enough? As digital customers, as their expectations get higher and higher, faster and faster, is 78% actually good enough? And I think the answer may be no, given that this year we can see satisfaction levels with delivery actually dropping away. The key takeaway, therefore, is that there is still room for improvements on delivery, but returns has significantly further to go. Okay? Number 7. Just as with delivery, customers expect the same level of convenience and options for returning their parcels, their orders, as they've come to expect with delivery. Okay? The most important aspect for customers when it comes to returns is being able to make sure that they can get their return parcel on its way as quickly and as easily as possible, and that the retailer is going to notify them where that returns is on its way back to them. They need confirmation of when it's been received and when the customer is going to get their credit. Okay? So, as with delivery, key takeaway number 7, customers want greater convenience and choice of returns options. The other key thing to say with regards to returns is that as far as behaviors go, when people get to the checkout, more and more consumers now are checking first, not only what delivery options have I got before they decide to purchase, but also a very key question in their head is also, how easy is it going to be for me to return this if I don't like it? So delivery and returns and your proposition around that are front of mind in the purchase process and almost go hand in hand. So when it comes to shaping your delivery proposition, there's 4 key elements that are going to influence, 4 key elements that related to delivery that's going to influence your customers' purchase to buy or repeat buy. That's cost of delivery, choice of delivery, convenience, and obviously speed. But the trick and the difficulty is how do you strike the right balance between all those four elements? So that on the one hand, you're meeting your customers' expectations, but on the other hand, you are shaping your delivery proposition to, to fit your business and your commercial priorities as well. Because delivery is not free. Even if you offer it as free, it's not free, at least not to you. So finally, what are the 3 pointers that I would like to leave you with to give you some food for thought about what you should be thinking about when you're putting your delivery proposition and your returns proposition together? Number 1, delivery convenience trumps fast and free. So contrary to industry opinion, and I deliberately say industry opinion because I do think this is actually driven more by the industry than the consumer or the customer. Contrary to industry opinion, delivery convenience trumps fast and free, okay? But this requires giving customers, and it's a principle that GFS really stand by, and we know that it works. This depends on giving customers the widest choice of delivery options available, okay? So that, logically, you are letting your customer decide which delivery option is most convenient for them, okay? We can't second guess what's going to be most convenient depending on what's happening on that day at that time. So trying to second guess, you're more likely to get it wrong. So give them choice of delivery options. Secondly, as we've seen in the research, think about communication. Think about especially pre-delivery notifications and returns notifications throughout the journey. It's vital for managing customer expectations and is directly linked to reducing failed deliveries. Okay? And then finally, delivery and returns are no longer hygiene factors. These are elements which could be key differentiators for your brand, could be real incentives for getting customers to buy and to buy more and to buy again. So you need to be thinking about how you're going to evolve that, and more importantly, delivery and returns, I believe, deserve attention in equal measure. So think about perhaps paying a little bit more attention to what you're doing around returns as well. Okay? I hope that's given you plenty of food for thought. What I would say is that if you want more information about the IMRG, which is the Association for UK Online Retailers, then here's their website. Andrew's going to be here later. If you'd like a copy of the exec summary of the IMRG report, then see me and I'll make sure that you get a copy afterwards, or come and visit us on our stand. Okay? I hope you've got some questions for me.
Yeah, no, I'm sure we've got time for that, Bobbie. That was really, really interesting. Thank you. Let me just kick off. So, if you've got all of this crack then in GFS, let me phrase it a different way. What would you change with what you're doing now then? How would you change your offer if there was one single thing that you were going to do based on what you've presented this morning?
I would say that if I was to prioritize anything, if I was in your shoes and I was looking to what could potentially give me immediate impact in terms of conversion at checkout, I would say add more delivery options, okay? We know that works. We've seen customers increase basket conversion in double digits within 6 months of implementing more delivery options for their customers. Now, we know it's not something you guys don't already do, so we're not trying to get you to suck eggs or anything. We know you know that. What we understand and what we see is that quite often retailers are being hampered by their own internal constraints, because offering more delivery options means that you need to be managing more carriers, so there's the burden of managing more carriers, and also integrating more delivery options into your platform. So you've got the technical complexities and cost around that. So
Yeah, because it sort of sounds to me intuitively sort of fairly obvious.
yeah.
So why isn't everybody doing it then? I mean, if this is the single biggest reason for basket abandonment, then why are so many online retailers offering limited choice rather than multiple choice?
I think I touched on those 2 points. I think what we see is that, like I said, it's not that retailers don't see it. It's pretty obvious. Customers tell us they want more choice of delivery options. What we see are constraints around internal constraints in the overhead of having to manage more carriers. You know, even the overhead on the finance department, trying to reconcile multiple invoices, deal with multiple carriers, your customer services team getting a call from a customer saying, where's my parcel? Suddenly your customer services team are thinking, right, which carrier do I call? You know, how do I contact them? Do I contact them by web? How am I supposed to call them? You know, it's the complexity,
Yeah.
and then you've got to integrate all that technology
And
into the systems.
how much then is there a trade-off between cost implication to the retailer and it's sort of picking up on the comment that I made in the introduction. You know, we could be obsessed with the customer experience, but what's the impact of providing that multiple choice of delivery options to our net margin? There's got to be a cost to that, hasn't there? I mean,
There
we
is
could
a
go
cost,
on and
but
on
then
and on.
you-
We
there
could
is
keep
a-
proliferating
There
this
is
choice
a cost,
of
but
delivery
there's also
options.
business case. There's a cost justification, which looks at how much are you losing in terms of,
Okay.
you know, lost sales. And
And is there a correlation to basket size then as well?
are you talking about where you can charge for?
Yeah.
Well, one
Or
of the
the more
keys-
you spend,
yeah.
the more convenience you get.
I think what you're referring to is how delivery, we said, you know, delivery can also be used as a lever, right, as a marketing tool for getting your customers to buy more. So you can incentivize purchase with delivery by, for example, saying over a certain basket size, they get free delivery or a premium delivery service rather than a standard delivery service. That is going to incent, you know, you are using it then strategically to drive purchase. Or to get them to buy more, because what the survey also shows is that the majority of respondents, when offered free collection, free delivery over a certain value, have upped their basket values. You know, they've gone back and put additional items in their basket to be able to do that. So I don't think I think, again, there is no one rule to fit all. I think the key is that you're able to test and try and learn. So you need to be able to have the capabilities, whether it's the delivery, access to those delivery services in an efficient and cost-effective way, right? So it's easy for you to access all those delivery services. But then you also need to have technology which is going to be flexible and configurable so that you can change very quickly and easily as you learn, as you test, as you and your customer change.
Open to the floor. Any questions from the floor? Yeah, can we get a microphone? There's a couple there. Let's go so 2/3 of the way back, first of all, and then just in front of that gentleman.
Thank you. Hello again.
Hello.
I was wondering if you had any insights on whether there's variation of the customer expectation based on the kind of product that you're selling. So if you have quite a niche, complicated product to be able to deliver where the customer has a different expectation versus something they consider they might be able to get quite quickly and easily, where there's a significant variation to the 4 categories.
Yeah. I think when you're thinking about your delivery strategy and what options to choose, you have to also think about what your product is that you're selling and what's the brand experience that you want your customers to have. So I think that is it a luxury brand? Is it a low-end product? Is it high value? Is it low value? I think there are different expectations from customers, and you need to make sure that you are offering those options that are relevant for your customer and for your brand. So, for example, you're not going to send a Rolex watch by I don't want to offend Royal Mail. I'm sure it's very reliable. But you're not going to send it by Royal Mail. You're going to send it by courier because you want to make sure it's safe, it's going to get there, it's secure, somebody's going to sign for it. Yeah?
Yeah. Another question?
Hi, Bobbie.
Hi.
So you've talked about convenience and the importance of that, and click and collect. And I know historically in these surveys, customers have preferred to collect from a retailer's store rather than a third-party network. Do you think that perception's changing now and that customers are moving towards the third-party networks, particularly with the decline in the high street?
Interesting.
I'm not sure, actually. I think I'm going to have to, point that question to Andrew. Andrew, it's a good question, but I don't want to answer it if I'm not 100% sure.
Hi, Chris. Over the 10 years, we've seen third-party click and collect, which is Pudos and Lockers, pick up in terms of awareness. So what's happening is we're getting a natural awareness of third party. We're also seeing more retailers coming to the click and collect market who don't have the store networks. So those two things combined mean that you're naturally going to get more interest from the retailer and the consumer. So the answer is yes. The thing that's stopping it, and I think this is the critical point, the thing that's almost plateauing the use of Pudos and Lockers against retailers is in-store click and collect tends to be free or perceived to be free. Whereas if you're going to deliver through, let's name some names, Hermes, DPD Pickup, Collect Plus, InPost and so on, those guys need to make some money. So there's a cost that goes on it, which is why third-party click and collect tends to be an additional charge. At the moment, that charge is about the same as what you're charged for a home delivery. So if you're a consumer and you're being charged £3 to have it delivered to home, or £3 to get out of your comfortable armchair and go down the road and pick it up yourself, you're probably going to stick with home. And what we'll see shifting that is when the industry, all of it, and that's you retailers, the click and collect guys, but most importantly the carriers, recognise that they can drive consolidated delivery, cheaper delivery, if they just marginally underprice click and collect below home delivery, and then we'll start to see another surge in demand.
Yeah.
That's probably not quite the answer you wanted, Chris, but there you go.
That's good. And that
Thanks,
goes back
Andrew.
to the 4 elements of your delivery or proposition, one of them being cost. So cost, use that also as a way to drive the behaviours that you're trying to drive with your customer as well, whether it's to drive them to your store, drive them to buy more, or drive them to, don't want to say buy less.
Any more from the floor before we close? No? Okay, stun them into silence. But a final thought from you then, Bobbie, just to wrap this one up. What's your big one takeaway?
Oh, God. All I'm thinking about is a gin and tonic right now, actually.
Okay, well, we'll go and get you a gin and tonic. That's been really insightful, and thank you very much, Bobbie. Let's
Thank you.
give Bobbie a big round of applause for that.